Taiwanese beef noodle soup, for me, is in my all-time hall of fame for comfort meals. It's one of my favorite things we ate in Taiwan for its beefy richness and fragrant seasoning. It's comforting and refreshing, dare I say, at the same time, which is really hard to pull off. Today I'm gonna teach you the techniques needed to get the most out of your beef noodle soup. It's so easy, and I think this belongs in your rotation of go-to meals. With beef noodle soup, it's really all about two main things: tender chunks of beef and rich aromatic broth. The noodles and toppings are, yeah, important for sure, but those are really straightforward once you know what you're looking for. Let's get into some soup prep. The broth is easy to think about in three distinct parts: aromatics and body, spices, and liquid seasoning. If we want a broth that sings with complexity, we need to start with a lot of aromatic veg. We need a ton of garlic for the way that I like it, roughly 10 cloves or so. Just lightly crush these and remove the paper. Most of what we're prepping is gonna go into the same pan at the same time, so I'm just gonna plop these into one container. Slice a large knob of ginger into thick slabs. Really no need to peel it here, this is gonna get strained out later. I like a lot of ginger in this. I think if there isn't enough, the soup can sort of taste a little flat, but that's up to you as well. Quarter a yellow onion. Again, no need to do anything fancy for this, it's just gonna be strained out in the end. To reinforce those sweet onion notes, I like just a handful of green onions. Just grab one of those bunches from the store and then cut the whites into large chunks and reserve the tops for garnish later. Tomatoes bring some sweetness, umami, and a little color. Some recipes use tomato paste as well, but I like just having the fresh tomato. The soup has so much richness going on that I like a little more freshness on that end of things. You can totally add some tomato paste, it's up to you. I've made it that way and I really, really like it. I just think I like the lighterness of fresh tomato here. Ingredients like garlic, ginger, and onion bring flavor, but more importantly, they make the broth smell tastier. We taste a lot through something called retronasal olfaction, which is basically just that like connection between your nose and the back of your throat. A lot of taste happens through that connection, so the more aromatic complexity a dish has, the better it tastes. Spices are also great at this because they're super aromatic, so let's take care of those next. I like having these little spice bags around, but it's not super necessary if you plan on straining it before eating it. To the bag, add in 2 bay leaves, 3 grams of fennel seed, 3 grams of cumin seed, 3 grams of Sichuan peppercorn. These add some nice numminess. 2 star anise for that like sweet licorice flavor, half a cinnamon stick, and a couple of dried chilies. If you've got some whole clove, just go ahead and add a couple of those in as well. This is basically makeshift 5 spice. These spices build in that savory, spicy, sweet floral note that makes the soup something really special. The smell you get from these simmering in that beautiful broth is absolutely out of this world. The final piece of seasoning is the liquids. Shaoxing wine, a Chinese cooking wine, will help bring out all of the alcohol-soluble flavors. Soy is gonna bring salt and color. So measure out 100 grams of Shaoxing wine, 50 grams of light soy sauce, and 25 grams of dark soy sauce. Along with some salt, some sugar, and some MSG, that makes up pretty much everything we need for the soup. That is, except for the beef, of course. I've been making this 2 different ways, so I've got 2 different options for you for beef. One is more traditional, and one's gonna be available pretty much everywhere. Classically, beef shank would be used in the form of these long banana shanks. They're really nice and tender when cooked down. They also have a little bit of chewy tendon running through them that contains a lot of beautiful collagen. The only thing is though, this takes probably an hour or 2 longer than the other option. If you can't find this, just use chuck roast. It's got a good amount of fat, not quite as much collagen as the shank would have though. The dissolved collagen and gelatin are massively important for a soup with lip smacking texture, so if you don't use the shank, you're gonna use one of these to supplement it. This is just a pack of unflavored gelatin, that's it. Mix it with a little cold water before adding it to the soup and thank me later. You're gonna be blessed with the most heavenly texture a soup can have. I went with shake this time. As I mentioned, I've made it both ways. I gotta be honest, I kinda like the chuck version a little bit better. Shank has gotten so expensive over time. It used to be super, super cheap, but these shanks were more expensive than 2 pounds of chuck would be, and the chuck just cooks a little bit faster into a little bit more tender of pieces. Up to you, go the route that you prefer. I just want you to have as much information as possible. Cut your beef into slices that are gonna be a little bit bigger than what you want in your final bowl. I prefer to cut my beef before boiling, that way a little bit more of the scum comes out before adding it to the soup. It's not too important which order you do this in though. Add your sliced beef to a pot of boiling water and let this cook for like 3 to 5 minutes, basically until the meat is no longer pink. Strain this off and wash the beef in cold water until it basically runs clear. It's just not worth having in your soup if you want like the most delicate beefy flavor. With our beef boiled and all of our aromatics prepped, we are ready to go on the soup making journey. For our cooking, we need a large Dutch oven or a pot that can hold at least 2 liters of liquid. Something large and heavy is good here. Keep this on medium-high until nice and hot, and then add in enough oil to coat the bottom. Add in the garlic, ginger, green onion, and yellow onion here. We want these to get a little bit of color on them before the next step of the process. Just continue moving these around, and once they look like this, Turn the heat down and add in 15 grams of brown sugar. This is gonna melt and begin to caramelize, but if anything begins to stick and solidify, don't worry, it's gonna dissolve in the broth later. Add in the beef before it looks like it's gonna burn, and then toss it around to completely coat it in the veggies and the sugar. From here, add in doubanjiang, 25 grams of it, and then the shaoxing wine. If you were using tomato paste, you would add it with the doubanjiang. Doubanjiang is just like a spicy Chinese broad bean paste, super salty, really flavorful, and kind of brings a little bit of the spice backbone that the soup needs. Our shaoxing wine can be used to scrape up any bits that have begun sticking to the pan. Add in the soy sauces, the spice bag, and then around 2 liters of water. If you used chuck, you can add the gelatin mixture here as well. I'm just gonna throw it in with my shank as well. It's not gonna hurt anything. Season this with some salt and some MSG now, but we can taste and adjust the salt levels near the end. It's gonna need more, just start with a base layer here. There's a lot of liquid in this, so it's gonna need to take a little bit of time to bring up to a simmer. Once there though, begin skimming off any scum that rises to the top. Don't worry about perfection here, but removing it does lead to a more clear broth, so it's a step that's worth it. Once this is up to a simmer, turn this down as low as it can go with just the slightest burbling. Set a timer for 3 hours and you can say goodbye to your soup for a while. Check back in every 30 minutes or so just to make sure that the water isn't reducing by too much. This isn't like a reduction, this is a soup, so try to maintain about the same amount of water in the pot. My wife and I went to Taiwan a few months ago, and it was one of the most meaningful experiences of my life. As soon as we landed in Taipei, I immediately felt a connection to the country. The nature, the warmth and kindness of the people, and the food all blew me away. Beef noodle soup was one of the dishes I was most excited to eat, and as soon as we got back, I knew I had to make it. One of the things I love most about food is how it can take you back to a memory, a place, or help you experience something new without having to buy a plane ticket. To me, this noodle soup takes me back to that crazy hot summer trip in Taiwan. At about the 2-hour mark, it's safe to start testing your beef for tenderness. If you've got chuck, it's gonna probably be pretty close. It probably only needs about an hour. If you're doing shank, this probably needs 2 more hours or so. Shank just has so much to break down that it needs a little bit more time. I find for chuck, 3 hours is usually about right, and for shank, 4 to 4.5 is pretty much where your beef's gonna start getting tender. In that last hour mark while it finishes, let's talk noodles and toppings for a quick second. For noodles, we've got a couple of great options. Fresh soup noodles like these are gonna work really well and should be available at places like H Mart and 99 Ranch if you've got those nearby. I prefer wide squiggly noodles like this though. They're usually dried and sold under knife cut noodles, and that's what I like for this. They're a little bit thicker, a little bit more chewy, and I just think they're super delicious. It's not a requirement. I'm gonna link to some down below I found on Amazon. Basically the same thing that I found here at my local store. For toppings, green onion is a non-negotiable. Cilantro would also be classic, but if you know by now, I'm definitely skipping that. We've also got some pickled mustard green or swan sai. You've got a couple of options for this. You could buy it sort of whole like this, or you could get these little package of prepped seasoned pickles. They sell them in the pickle aisle at an H Mart or 99 Ranch, so you've got some options here. If you've got a whole package of swan sai like this, you need to rinse it in cool water just to remove some of the salty sourness. Just let it sit in cool water for about 15 minutes and then change the water out halfway through. Squeeze out any excess water and store any leftovers in a container in the fridge. Use some scissors to cut up as much as you want in the soup. The swan sai is like a pickled Chinese cabbage with a little bit of earthiness. If this resonates with you, think about it as pickle on a burger, or kimchi with Korean barbecue, or sauerkraut on a nice broth. That sort of pickly punch helps you keep going in for more. I think it makes a big difference, but if you can't find it, you could just leave it out. You could also boil some bok choy and have that along with it if you want something a little bit more hearty and vegetable-y to go with all of that beefy soupiness. Once the beef is nice and tender, about 3 to 4.5 hours depending on the cut, we can begin fishing out the hunks and setting them aside. Remove the spice bag that we made and then get a second vessel ready to strain the broth into. You need a huge bowl or another pot and a sieve. Be sure not to spill this here like I did and use pot holders or towels just to keep from burning your hands. From here, get the strained broth back into a clean pot on the stove, and now is when we have the opportunity to taste it for final seasoning. You're gonna adjust salt levels as needed. I find it always needs a few more pinches just to make sure that everything tastes right and all the flavors sing. Salt makes every flavor more noticeable, so if you're finding that it's a little flat, it probably just needs more salt. So keep adding and keep tasting between each pinch just to make sure that you're on the right track. You can add the beef back to the pot now to stay warm, or you can just keep it off to the side to make sure each bowl has the same amount of meat. It's up to you. I like to just add it back into the pot. It's not gonna matter later. Get a pot of salted water up to the boil for your noodles and then drop these in to cook. The package is gonna give you time counts for each one. These knife cut noodles are kind of set into blocks. I find that one of these blocks is not enough for one bowl of noodles, so I usually do 3 blocks for 2 people, if that makes sense. Everyone's getting kind of 1.5 blocks of these noodles. Usually while I'm cooking those, I like to just microwave the bowls with a little bit of water in them to make sure that they're hot. Just keeps the broth a little hotter for a little bit longer. It's one of those little tiny things that you can do just to make the eating experience a little better. Doesn't really make that much of a difference though. Drain your noodles and we can start building the bowls. Add in your noodles, top it with a broth, add your hunks of tender beef, add your green onion, the chopped swan sai, and I like to add a little bit of chili oil on mine for added heat. I made this recipe specifically not super spicy. In testing this recipe, I would make versions with a lot more Sichuan peppercorns for like more spicy numminess. I would do more doubanjiang, but ultimately I wanted this to be a sort of base level soup that anybody can work off of. I know I've put out a lot of spicy recipes in the last few weeks, so I wanted this to be something that's approachable for everybody, no matter what spice level tolerance you're at. At the end of the day, this is how I do a lot of my cooking. There's a little bit of prep up front, but most of the time is just unattended. Like if you were taking a lunch break, you could totally prep the soup, get it on the stove, and then just let it sit until like 6 o'clock when you're ready to eat. It's gonna get better with more time, the beef's gonna get more tender, the flavors are just gonna develop more and more. This is so good for the soul and so damn tasty. It's aromatic and sweet from all of those spices that we put in. It's got richness from all of that beef and all of the broken down collagen and tendons in the shank or the chuck, whichever one you go with. It's rich and refreshing at the same time, which, as I mentioned earlier, is a really, really hard thing to do. This is the exact broth you want to be sipping on when it starts getting cold and the rain starts coming. This was such a fun recipe to work on because so many people have different versions of this. Versions in Taiwan range from super, super beefy, really light, really red, really brown. Like everybody has their own way of making this, almost similar to my experience with spaghetti sauce, where everyone's got their own version. So I highly recommend trying this and seeing where it ends up on your scale. If you want more spice, add more spice. If you want more tomato, add tomato paste to it. It's so versatile. No matter what though, you're getting that aromatic punch from all of the vegetables and all the spices in it. My mouth is legitimately watering just thinking about it. Massive shout out to the amazing people supporting me directly on Patreon through patreon.com/CameronMarty. They get some cool benefits for supporting the channel, and I get to keep making videos like this, so it's a win-win. Consider checking it out and consider becoming a patron. This is one of my all-time favorite recipes. If you're looking for another all-time favorite recipe, this chicken tikka masala I made is what we've been making all the time now. So good, so hearty, so rich, worth definitely checking out. I've got some leftovers I'm gonna go heat up. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers.